And we are live! Welcome everyone! My name is Karolina Lewandowska and I am honored to be the first moderator of the first session of Polish Tech Day 2022. I am even more honored to be joined here by the two amazing people who you see with me here today. Please welcome Kinga Alina Langowska, who is a PhD student at University of Gdańsk and a research specialist at the Immigration Museum in Gdynia, as well as Sebastian Tyrakowski, who is the Deputy Director at Emigration Museum in Gdynia. Welcome. Now, today we'll be talking about something that is really exciting, and that is the immigration of highly skilled professional Polish women. The Emigration Museum in Gdynia is currently working on the femigration report, which, without going into too much detail, because this is something that we'll be talking about very soon, will be painting an extremely interesting portrait of Polish women, professional women living abroad. It will tell us who they are and what kind of challenges they face. However, before we dive into the specifics of the research project itself, could you, Sebastian, maybe tell us a little bit more about where does this topic even come from? A lot of our participants will know that the Immigration Museum has already previously conducted a lot of interesting research projects, a couple of them being strongly focused on Polish professionals living abroad. So was the research choice inspired by those studies that you did before, or maybe was it a completely different idea that inspired you?
Good afternoon, everyone. At least good afternoon in Poland. Thank you very much for the invitation to the Polish Tech Day conference. It's our great honor and privilege. We are here for the third time, hopefully not the last one. As you stated before, the Immigration Museum in Gdynia has been undertaking research projects for a while now, and we can say that we are sort of specializing ourselves in research projects that focus on highly qualified immigrants from Poland. And our activities have been, I can honestly say, a direct response to lack of such projects and lack of such data that were not delivered in the past. Our sort of adventure with these research projects started when we met the Plugin Foundation and started strong cooperation with them. And that was a direct response to what was felt from the communities that this kind of data is needed. As you said before, we've conducted a couple of research projects. They were focused on highly qualified immigrants from Poland. We did qualitative and quantitative research. They were based on online projects and in-depth interviews. And we asked immigrants questions like, what were the reasons for immigration? What were the challenges? What are the relationship with Poland and with Polish communities? What are the plans for the future? Do they plan to come back perhaps in the future? What should change in policies, etc.? We received really interesting data. We also undertook research projects with future graduates of one of the best high schools in Poland. It was the third LO in Gdynia, with an international baccalaureate profile, with a view of analyzing what are the future immigration plans of future graduates of this school. Basically these projects showed us, except for a large number of interesting data related to the immigration generally of highly qualified immigrants, we started noticing that a large percentage of the respondents were women across all research projects that we delivered in the past. And when we looked at that subject very closely, it turned out that there's very little data and projects that were delivered in the past that focus on women, particularly on a highly skilled women emigrating from Poland abroad. We didn't know what were the plans, what are they doing, what are the professions, what are the challenges, what do they have to face. Basically, very little data. We also noticed that in the previous projects, responses from men versus women were slightly different. For example, women were more conscious about their decision of emigrating, but the plans were not as concrete as, for example, men who knew what they would like to do when they emigrate abroad. But the decision about immigration would be taken later than women. So that was a very strong inspiration for us to start a project that is specifically dedicated on immigration of highly skilled women from Poland. And that project is a direct response to the lack of data. We're in the middle of the project. We actually finished the stage of qualitative data research, and we are starting a quantitative research. But we have a large number of responses which will be, and data that we will be very happy to share with you today. So that was our inspiration to start the project. Previous research projects and clear lack of data and projects delivered in the past that specifically focus on women. We also noticed that there was a very strong, and there still is a very strong change in trends in terms of immigration of women, but we can talk about that later.
Right, thanks. It's actually really interesting that you mentioned all that and that you saw all those responses in the research project that you've already conducted. I have to say that when I heard about this research, I was really excited, and it wasn't only because, I really personally enjoy when general topics are looked at through the lens of the female part of the population, but also because it seems that this is not a topic exactly that you mentioned that is talked about within the society, but also by the researchers. So when you think about it historically, like you mentioned as well, like it was women maybe just going with men who were emigrating. When did it start changing, Kinga? Like, how did it look historically?
Yeah, as you mentioned already, it from the beginning, even 100 years ago, there was almost the same amount of women and men, the Polish women and men who were migrate. But everything changed in the 60s of the 20th century, because during that time, not only in the west part of Europe, but also in the east part of Europe, there were changes in everyday life, in every sector of life, and also it comes to the migration of the people. And from that time, this nature of female migration changed. They started to migrate alone, individual, and they had more opportunities to earn money. And the researchers who are dealing with this issue, they begin to talk about the process of the feminization of migration since 60s of 20th century, as I mentioned before, and it's taking place still. When we should also say about the global context of our research, because when it comes to the contemporary situation and last reports from the 2019, 2020 and 2021, there is almost the same amount of the male and female migrants around the world. It's exactly 47.9% of the female migrants. And what is really interesting, there is more migrants, the female migrants, in the North America and Europe. It's around 51.5%. And special group of the migrants is the group of the highly skilled females. And there is much more highly skilled female migrants than men. It's increasing from the year to year. When it comes to the Poland, it's from 2004, when Poland started to be a member of European Union, we had much more opportunity to migrate. From 2002 to the 2011, we can say that especially this number of female migrants increased around the European Union, and now there is around 51% of highly skilled female migrants around this area.
Right. Yeah. No, that's interesting. I wouldn't actually have said that there's that kind of shift. I mean, it's great that women take the initiative to do that and to move not with someone but on their own. What would you say for you would be like the main aim of this project?
Well, first of all, Sebastian told you already a little bit about our inspirations, about our previous reports, but there were also other additional inspiration were also our own stories, because almost all our employees, the members of the Emigration Museum in Gdynia, they have their own stories. They were migrant in some part of their life. So that was another inspiration. We are all migrants, and we wanted to personally, that project is very important for us. And what it comes to the aim of this project, it was very important for us to have more details, have more information about this special group, their achievements, but also their problems, their everyday life, their personal life, and their professional life.
Perfect. So what's next? Because you've already finished the first part of the project, which is the online form where you collected, where we actually asked a lot of interesting questions that made me personally think. So can you tell us a little more what will happen next, or maybe give us a little sneak peek of some answers that you found particularly interesting?
Absolutely. We've finished the qualitative survey. We were very pleased to receive over 500 responses. So that's comparing it to previous projects is a higher number than we've achieved in the past. So that's one case. Now we will be conducting in-depth interviews. But basically, what I think is important to underline, that this report will be the first report about this topic that will be produced in Poland by institutions like this. What we've asked in this survey was key questions about the professional status. What are the areas that the highly skilled immigrants, women were working? What are their qualifications? What are the challenges? What are the life areas that they operate in? What are the reasons why they emigrated? So similar questions to the ones that we've asked in the previous research report. And in terms of answers, I think some of them are pretty similar and are pretty what we've expected to be, and some are quite surprising. I mean, we're coming back to the previous projects. More than 50% of the respondents were women, so that clearly was against what we were thinking was a stereotype of a highly skilled immigrant working, for example, in the tech environment, because we I think automatically thought that it would be let's say a highly skilled man working a tech geek, let's say, and it turns out quite differently. And now what we see in the responses in this project is that, first of all, the respondents were from many different countries. There were no particular area where the respondents were. For example, 27% of the respondents came from African countries. So that was quite a surprise. The obvious answer was that 75% of the respondents were highly skilled were achieved at least MA status, and 20% had a PhD or higher level of education. The vast majority of emigrants, of respondents, felt that they are working at the level and in a place that it corresponds very well to their qualifications. So that's very important news to us. These jobs were that the women worked, that the respondents were saying were mainly permanent jobs. They were employed on a permanent contracts mostly. So it looked like this situation is very stable. What was also very important, and I think very different to if we were to conduct this research years ago, was that more than 80% of the respondents made their decision to emigrate on their own without a partner. So that was a very conscious decision, and basically the entire process looks from the survey that these are very conscious decisions. Almost 80% of the countries where they reside now, their final. It looks like it's their final destination. So it's these immigrations are very conscious, and they are prepared well in advance. The vast majority of the respondents live in multicultural, let's say, relationships, which is also something that you would expect. What's also important in the responses, that turned out that it's quite important for highly skilled immigrants, women from Poland, to keep up the relations with Poland in terms of Polish traditions, in terms of Polish language, particularly when you have kids, to look after traditions, Christmas, etc. So that was also underlined in the survey. So a very conscious and a positive image was created in the survey. Something that we expected, but as Kinga said, something that would not be that visible if that survey was delivered some years ago. So we see a very clear trend in the emigration of women. And we are very pleased now that our research will be conducted. We will be starting to conduct in-depth interviews, and we will try to make our answers more in-depth in the second phase of the project. The report will be available soon. Hopefully this will be very useful for many communities and for you.
Fantastic. No, that's such a good thing to hear as well. It's so positive to hear that Polish women are happy and are professionally happy working abroad. Last final question: is there a way that people can still get involved?
There is always a way. This stage of the survey is closed, but we will be conducting in-depth interviews. It doesn't have to necessarily be with the group that responded from within the qualitative survey. So you can always get in touch with the museum. And I'm sure, as with the previous projects, that it's just a step, it's just a stage. We will not finish our research projects, and they need to be continued, because it's the only way that you can see some trends, and you need to have data to compare and analyze.
Yeah, and of course there will be a lot of events promoting our report, in which all the people can take part, not only here in the museum, but also online from abroad.
Super, fantastic. Do keep us posted. Let us know about those events, and we'll be happy to share them with the audience. Thank you very, very much for this conversation. It leaves me with a big smile on my face, as you can see. So we're really looking forward to reading the report. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Karolina.
Thank you.